want to take it, or?
Let's go.
All right, let's roll. I like that. I'll call this meeting to order. I will entertain a motion to approve April 4th, 2019 agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. I'll also entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 14th, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Awesome. I will now call on the staff for a report on the communities of all ages discussion.
And I will actually first introduce Kim Nakahoto, our Assistant City Administrator, who is really the one in charge of this project. We are getting the overview tonight, and this will be a project that we will be working on starting a little bit later this year. As we finish the zoning ordinance update, then this will be the next thing that we will launch into as a group. And Kim will be the one who's really leading the charge on this project. So you'll see her at some meetings here coming up. And I'll let you take it from there.
Good evening, Planning Commission. I look forward to working with you guys. I hope that you guys find this to be an exciting project. Tonight is really just kind of an overview. So we're going to, actually, we as in Miss Kathy is going to provide an overview. I'd like to introduce Kathy Boyer-Schessel. She is with Mid-America Regional Council, and she is the regional manager for the KC Communities for All Ages program. And she is going to kind of talk about the program, where we currently are in the program. Tonight we'll be kicking off the silver level assessment, which is actually the most robust part of the program. It involves kind of a heavy look at ourselves, at our policies, our procedures, our built environment. What assets do we have within our community? What programs do we have within our community? And are we poising ourselves in the best position possible as we move forward? And Kathy will kind of go through a lot of this information, but what does our community look like in 10 years? What does it look like in 20 years? Are we really planning? Are we poised for that type of age difference that's projected in the next 10 years? So this process really makes us go through a physical worksheet. Me as staff, we will have 5 upcoming sessions. There will be 6 different topics. 2 of them are combined. But through that process, we really kind of take a mirror to ourselves and look at those policies, procedures. Do we have policies? Do we have procedures in these areas? When's the last time somebody's looked at them? And are they applicable anymore? Maybe that was written 10 to 20, 30 years ago, and we would never actually implement it the way it's physically written. So maybe through this process, a recommendation would be to look at that policy and update it. That might be something that comes out of this process. Or as we look forward, maybe our sidewalks, maybe we need to take a good look at that to see if those would age well along with our community. So I would like to actually hand it off now over to Kathy and have her go through her presentation. And then after the conclusion, we'd love to try to get our calendars out and actually schedule those upcoming 5 work sessions over the summer months, summer, early fall months.
Hi, thanks for having me here tonight. I'm going to go through just a few slides that some of you may have already seen. So if that's the case, then you're just getting more primed to be able to present this at some point in the future for your city. So the first slides are a series of just kind of showing the demographic shift that's going to occur over the next couple decades. But I wanted to say, as a follow-up to one of the things that Kim said, that as those across the country that are involved in age-friendly community initiatives, initially when these programs started, it was thinking of the aging boomers. But for cities and those that are involved in this, as we've gotten farther along, we're realizing that millennials coming up behind the boomers, which really outnumber boomers by several million, they too will age. So those communities are doing just as what Kim described, are really adjusting and accommodating for, actually this is a century-wide issue. So it's the aging of the boomers was the impetus for the program, but now that we're in it, we see that this is really communities that will accommodate folks that are living longer for the next several generations. So the first slide that we start with is, again, as I said, this initiative across the country was started with the aging of the boomers. And in 2011, you probably have heard this statistic from AARP that the first baby boomers started to turn 65. Initially, it was 8,000 a year, but we're now at the point where across the country, this is a U.S. statistic, 10,000 boomers are turning 65 every day, and this will continue until 2030. So that's a lot of boomers who are aging, living longer, healthier lives. So the next slides are going to go from, that was the national, we're going to go to state, regional, and in North Kansas City. So this slide shows the state of Missouri in 2010 and 2030. And the gold slides are yellow, however, you're seeing that color, reflect counties that will have 25% or greater residents that are 65 plus. Kansas's slide is even far more dramatic. There's like 10 counties that aren't gold. But you can see that with the shifting of the colors in here, that the state of Missouri is absolutely showing the age wave. The KC Metro data shows the 9 counties for the MARC metro area, and the Clay County is showing that like all other counties, there's a percentage increase of those over the age of 65, although I think this is 55. And then North Kansas City's population, a graph that shows actually all ages. You can see the green with primarily, except for those that are in the 45 to 55, that there'll be an increase of residents that are over the age of 60, that are 50 plus. So any questions at all at this point as far as showing the demographic shift through data? So the metropolitan Kansas City's population, like those across the country, is becoming more and more a region of all ages where all groups are represented relatively equally. This shows the chart that we're probably most used to seeing with the kind of the pig and the python in the middle that shows very few are living 80 to 84. And the 2030 projection is really showing more of a stovepipe to really kind of demonstrate that we really are more of a region of all ages that are shown relatively equally. So when this program came to MARC, and we partnered in the development of the program with the First Suburbs Coalition, of which North Kansas City is a member of that, the question is, well, what does this mean for cities? And actually, as Kim introduced tonight's program, she really talked about what are the questions? Are local jurisdictions ready for this? There's a saying for those of us in the field that cities were developed as though we're all Peter Pans, that we're really never ever going to grow old. But this raises the question with the longevity. People are living older. They're being healthier. They really do want to remain in their homes for as long as they can. So what does this suggest for cities in terms of planning and in other ways that cities do their business? So it essentially impacts every aspect of the city's work. So MARC, in partnership with the First Suburbs Coalition, developed this Communities for All Ages recognition program. The program development was guided by the work done on a worldwide basis headed by World Health Organization 10, 12 years ago. But we developed our own Kansas City homegrown age-friendly community program called Communities for All Ages. It has 3 phases. The Bronze level awareness, which you all have earned. North Kansas City has earned that. We'll talk a little bit more about what went into that in just a couple slides. The second phase, which we're about to enter, is the assessment phase, or the silver. And then the following is the gold, which is implementation. And Kim and Sarah will talk about the plans that are on the table right now to earn the gold level. So a part of what is involved in the silver level is the checklist, and you all have a copy of that. There are 6 topics, and in gleaning, when this program was developed, we looked at strategic plans of probably a couple dozen cities throughout Europe and Canada who were far ahead of the United States in planning for age-friendly communities, and pulled out sample policies and actions that we felt were appropriate and relevant for the Kansas City region. So the checklist includes transportation and mobility, public spaces, social inclusion, civic participation, employment, health, housing, and commercial development. No matter what the age-friendly program that exists, and there's probably a half a dozen around the country, they all look at these topics. Thought you'd like to know where North Kansas City is, the kind of company that you're keeping in this program. And actually, as of Monday, we're adding another community to the gold level. The gold level is essentially applying an age lens to a major city plan. And again, Sarah and Kim will talk about what your all plans are at this point, but we're adding Roland Park to the gold level. And Olathe will be achieving the bronze level. Most of these are on the Missouri side. We are happy to have Olathe, the third Kansas community. But this is the company that you're keeping with this program. So for the bronze level, and just to go over this really quickly, this is characterized by raising the awareness of elected officials, staff, and residents. So your city council, right, not Board of Aldermen, city council adopted a resolution, which is a prerequisite to participate in this program. And then there's a variety of presentations that cities that participate in this can do. In addition to the city council, there was a presentation to the department heads about how an increased older adult population might impact their department. North Kansas City conducted a resident survey, and some of those survey results might be used to inform some of the silver level discussions. There was also a community meeting that was held to just raise the awareness of local residents, and I think that there are a number of articles and publicity around the program. So with that, and you also have a section on your website devoted to communities for all ages. So North Kansas City met the criteria to earn that particular recognition. So as we enter the silver level, to meet the requirements for that is essentially to conduct a self-assessment of all of the items that are in the checklist and then issue a report. I might add that as we go through the checklist, no city is expected to have every one of those policies and do all of the actions. It's just, these are examples of policies and actions that are reflective of age-friendly communities. And there is no judgment. As we go through this, there is no judgment if you end up having no policies and no actions. That is not a problem. The essence of the silver level is that by conducting the self-assessment, it raises a robust conversation that occurs in the other cities that have completed the silver level as to, well, why don't we have this policy? Or we have this policy, as Kim mentioned, it's been on the books for 30, 40 years, which in some of our communities we have found that. Can we update it? Or can we give it a little bit more teeth? But I did want you to know, as you're looking at that, there's no expectation that every policy and action, no city would have those. And then the gold level, as mentioned, is that there's an age lens that's applied to one of your major city plans. Examples of what the other gold level cities have chosen to do for their gold level: 2, applied an age lens to their updated park plans. 2, applied an age lens to their updated comp plan. 1, updated their strategic plan. And 2 communities developed their own discrete individual communities for all ages master plans. You want to mention now what your thoughts are?
So the North Kansas City will actually be applying the age lens to the bicycle master plan, which is currently underway. When we kind of chatted about it, that seemed to be a plan that was already in the works, but B, a lot of the parameters that Kathy had mentioned, what's kind of good for your older population is also very good for your younger population, and it applied very much so to the bicycle master plan. It talks about distances between curbs, radius as you're making a turn around a corner. Well, a bicycle is going to perhaps pull a baby cart, That's going to make a much wider turn than a single line bicycle. It could be construed as a mom with a stroller. It could be somebody with some mobility issues. Maybe they had a knee replacement. They're on one of those little scooters. So it actually really addresses mobility needs across the spectrum very well to apply it to the bicycle master plan, since through that process they will be looking at all of those items. So for us, it kind of made sense to apply that all ages lens to the bicycle master plan, because the point of that was to kind of guide our future thoughts about infrastructure investments.
Kim, is there a committee for the bike master plan? And the reason I ask is I see on the Silver, since we're in the process for Silver, it mentions forming a committee. I just didn't know if if the city had a plan to form a new committee around this specifically, or if there's another committee you were thinking about adding this to.
Well, no, we'll be forming an advisory committee for the bike master plan. We started contacting people about that today, because we're just getting started on this.
Okay. And do you foresee that this would then fall under that committee as well? Because on the Silver slide, it mentioned having a committee for the city of all ages, but maybe it'd be its own committee, maybe it'd fall under a different committee.
The Planning Commission will act as the task force for this. We do have others that will join us on this, and in fact, I'd like to actually say hello to our friends from Clay County Health Department. The Clay County Health Department will be helping us through this assessment. They do provide residents in North Kansas City with vital services, and if you kind of flip through here, several of the aspects mention health and wellness of our community. So this will be an opportunity for us to learn more about their programming that they offer within North Kansas City, as well as we get to learn a little bit more about what they do within our community. Who will be helping along the way? We'll have representatives from North Kansas City Hospital, from the North Kansas City YMCA, and the business community. So depending on the topic, like I said, there will be 5 different work sessions, but the Planning Commission has been kind of tasked with being the genesis, the central committee for this process, for the Communities for All Ages. But it really only as good as many people as we can engage through the process. So the library will also be engaged, and the Parks Board will also be, because several of the components, if you kind of, I don't know if you guys have a second, we'll flip through here real fast, talk about the different checklist items. As Kathy had mentioned, this is kind of a hard look at ourselves through specific topics, and the work sessions will focus on those topics. So one of them is public outdoor spaces and buildings. For that particular one, we would want to engage our library, our Parks and Recreation Department, our YMCA, kind of our public spaces, to help us identify what policies they have, what programming do they have that actually coincide with some of these questions we need to be asking ourselves. For housing and commercial development, the Business Council has already said that they would help us look at those components through this age lens to see how our buildings and facilities look when we look at them through an all ages lens. Transportation and mobility, we'll be asking the KCATA to join us for that particular one, to talk about the services that they offer, as well as identifying perhaps any gaps that we have in our systems when you think about all ages through the lens of transportation and mobility. Social inclusion, communication and participation, as well as civic participation and employment. Those two are coupled together into one work session since they kind of go hand in hand. That one really spreads a wide gamut. That's going to be one that we're going to be asking our friends at the YMCA, the library, the hospital, Clay County Public Health, what do they do in these lenses? Again, the city, as you know, we provide services, but it takes a village, as it were, and we don't provide every service that a resident needs. It's kind of why we have to engage our stakeholders to help us through this process. And then community and health services, again, are, that we would be asking our hospital, the Clay County Public Health, and YMCA, what services and programs do they have that kind of help us address some of these policy questions that are within the workbook.
So a couple comments about the workbook and what the other cities that have completed the self-assessment is that almost every community, as they go through this, it's very self-validating because you'll find that you really are doing a lot of what's in here. There may be some enhancements, but for the most part, you're going to walk away feeling pretty good about what you're already doing as compared to what's in here. And the other thing which Kim mentioned is that this is an assessment of city policies and actions. That's what the self-assessment is. But it almost it gives you the opportunity to really look at partners in the community that cities often don't think about as pulling into your fold. One example that came out of a community is to look at Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts that are earning that the Eagle Scout or whatever the Girl Scouts highest level is, that maybe as a part of their project they could make park benches. And Clay County Senior Services is an excellent resource for Clay County. And Martin Riverola, if you'd like, the Marks Transportation Department can also be here the night of the transportation. So it's validating, but it also gives the opportunity to really strengthen, either start relationships with partners that you would not have thought about, or strengthen relationships that do exist. So next steps, the city's actually identified the leadership with Kim as the champion and the planning committee to spearhead the work, and to schedule the self-assessment meetings, typically 5, because the topics 4 and 5 generally are combined. And then I think that there's assigning the staff to conduct a pre-analysis. What we have found when we piloted the program, that it's helpful to the task force or the group that's going through the self-assessment, for the staff to have gone through it prior to the meeting to document the policy or action that's either a dead ringer to what's in there, or a policy that may be really similar, or an action that you're doing that's really similar, so that you can react to what's already been done. That was a major recommendation, to have that pre-analysis completed. Mark staff were available to facilitate the self-assessment and have someone available to actually document the discussion and then issue the first draft of the final report.
Do you guys have any questions about the program?
Don't take this wrong, but at council meeting the other night, one of our council members was complimenting our city on how well we take care of our potholes compared to the other cities. And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, you know, it's really hard for us to try to compare with like Kansas City or even Gladstone. We don't have as many roads and everything else. And I guess what I'm getting to is, going through all of this, we have most everything that's on here. I mean, we have senior housing, we have bus that runs for them. We got everything almost, you know. And I just don't want us to be thrown into the same big pot, you know, like Liberty and Gladstone and Kansas City, Missouri. We've got a very unique situation here where we've got a population that we apparently can take care of, and I think we do a pretty good job. I just get a little frustrated as to why. Well, I understand why we're doing this, but we're doing most of it anyway. I mean, I guess that's just what okay, well, all right, we'll be recognized for it. Well, who cares? I mean, that's all I got.
Well, your residents are probably going to care. One of the parts about this program that indeed it will help folks as they age, but the program is really not exclusively, do we have senior housing, do we have buses for them, which is, all of those are really important. But this is a program that really is looking at the city's entire infrastructure and departments, that recognizing that people are going to age as they live in North Kansas City, and looking at the topics in the checklist, do we really have policies and actions that will accommodate and adjust to having far more people that will grow older? Is North Kansas City a great place to grow up and grow old? So it's really a program for all ages and not just what are we doing for our seniors.
Any questions? Thank you, David.
Well, if you guys would like to move on to the calendaring part.
Oh, great.
So we have five work sessions that, while I kind of have you here, if I could have everybody pull up your calendars.
We are planning to not do this in June because we're planning for the public hearing for the zoning ordinance adoption that night. We, at this time, don't have any cases for May that I know of. There is one kind of out there that might turn into a case for you all. It might not. We won't know for a couple more weeks. But right now, your May agenda is wide open. July, you asked us to move that back a week because of the 4th of July. So that will be on a different night. And that's all that we've planned out this far in advance.
I know there was talk about a joint session with the city council.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is April 30th. That's a
April 30th.
Tuesday night,
Okay.
so not your typical night. We will serve you dinner that night.
Do you already know what's going to be on that agenda, or?
That's the zoning ordinance
Oh,
workshop
okay.
with you and the city council together.
I'm sorry. Did you already send out info about that? I totally missed it.
I'm not sure if we've sent you out something separately, but we did talk about it at your last meeting.
You said that's April 30th?
Tuesday, April 30th.
You know what time?
6 p.m.
Here.
Actually, we're checking on the fire station #1 training room. It's a nice space, but we will let you know for sure.
I actually have it on my calendar already, so
Oh, good.
former Laura knew about it. I just completely forgot.
We maybe
What time,
a
what
couple
time do
hours
you,
for that, or
I'd plan on an hour to an hour and a half.
what time do you have on the April the 30th, and what time?
6 p.m.
Till 6 p.m.
So then you're wondering if the May meeting would be a good time to do one of these sessions, is
So-
that right?
They would not have to be your formal meeting date. They could if that's what your schedule allows. So these are kind of task force. These would be a bit longer. These would be anywhere between 60 minutes to 90 minutes, but we would feed you dinner. I should have led with that.
And this is just with us, or will this be with parks and library?
It would, depending on the topic, there would be a larger volume.
Okay.
And to be honest, we have been thinking about having this not in this room because what we'd like it to be is a bit more conversational. We will have a whole lot of people like the health department, the YMCA, that I would like it to be more of a conversation and less of a presentation. I find sometimes the built environment can influence the way people feel like they can talk and about a subject. So it would be more of a work style. So I would almost suggest it not be on your planning commission evenings because what I don't want to do is have you here for a very long time in addition to the work of this workforce.
Can we have it at the park board, a park meeting, park building?
We can.
You know,
We can. Like I said, I would rather, just me personally, this room is fantastic for official meetings.
Yeah.
It's maybe not so great for an informal conversation, and that's just because of the way the room is laid out.
do we have is there a time limit for us to get these 5 meetings done?
No.
Or just,
No,
Kinda
there
as we
is
can get
no.
'em
I mean, on the slide, it says when the application, so the program has application windows, but to be 100%, I'm not driven by a specific schedule. To me, this could take as, we could go as quickly or as diligently and slowly in time as need be. We're doing this over the summer. We're going to be running into vacation times really very quickly. And that includes your vacation times, staff's vacation times, Kathy's vacation times, and our stakeholders who will be joining us for these meetings. So part of me wonders if you guys have it sounds like maybe the second, there may or may not be something on there. Would you be open to May 9th? Would you have the availability on May 9th? It's a Thursday evening. Oh, you have a conflict, so that one's out. Which evenings work best for you? I'm trying to avoid Mondays and Fridays because those are just no good for anybody. And then there are sitting city council meetings that I wouldn't be able to make. But if does May 8th, the evening of May 8th, does that? Do I see head nods?
That works.
We'll do that.
That would be 6 o'clock. Location TBA, I'm going to try to get the parks. I think that would be, because it's got a kitchen, we could do dinner. Do you have a conflict? in that?
No, I don't have conflict. Do you need like a quorum? Does there need to be a certain number of
No.
people from the planning commission, or just whoever can make it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any way we could bunch these up quicker together and get it over with, or?
If you'd like to, sir.
I would, but I don't know about the rest of them.
We could do that. I mean, staff, me, might need a couple weeks in between. And that's only because my intent would be to run down these answers for you. To have at least the base of understanding of, yes, we have a policy, no, we don't. That way we can have kind of a little bit more of an informed dialogue as we go through these questions. That, I'll be honest, will take me a little bit of time. But if you wanted to do, say, May 8th and May 29th. I do want to leave June open since you guys already have, I should kind of leave that month out, correct?
Bunching the meetings together, not all of us have to be there, but it wouldn't be great for me, just with little kids and stuff like that.
Are you trying to plan all 5 of them now, or you want to plan all 5 of them tonight?
You thinking
If-
like do 2 or 3 and then see how long it takes us to do the follow-up, or?
I was just going to suggest maybe we do the first one and then plan them after each
Okay.
one at a time instead of trying to go so far out. But that was my suggestion. If that's okay for everybody.
That suits me. Yeah.
Does that suit you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And then we'll kind of leave June out, and then at the May meeting, pick the perhaps July date, if
Sure.
that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe those Junes are more open, then maybe we could do June. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll know more when we get to May 8th, I think, how our Junes and Julys look. So
So are we set on the May 8th date then?
I think so. Yep.
May 8th, 6 p.m., and I will get you the location. And then, like I said, our intent would be, because it would be kind of a 6 to about 7:30 meeting, to have dinner at that meeting. That way it'd be kind of a working dinner. We could kind of sit down and go through the workbook.
Is the first meeting more of a just us meeting, or is it more of a parks and library? Because reason I asked, my wife's on the library board, so we might need to kind of sit her. We can both go.
Well, it would, so the first one, the Parks Department has kind of asked that the public outdoor spaces, that they come up a little later in the agenda, and the reason being is that they're coming up on their very busy season. So we would probably pick number 2, housing and commercial development. That would probably be this, and I don't imagine the library having a large presence in that particular topic area. Again, kind of the people who will come and join you would be very topic specific, although I do have a pretty good little handful of just regular residents that would like to be involved. They may drop in for 1 or 2 sessions, but they were part of the bronze process, and they have been asked for me to keep in touch with them as we move through this process. So you may see some some people who are not stakeholders join us, it would be a public work session. So the public would be able to come and learn about this process as well. And like I said, I have about 4 or 5 people who have been asked that when we have these sessions that they be invited because they're genuinely interested in this process.
Great. I guess we'll see you again on May 8th.
Do you have any further questions for Kathy or I?
No. Well, thank you for the presentation. That was great. Move on to comments from public. Anything to say? Nope, sure. Comments from staff.
I just wanted to remind you about our open house next Tuesday. You all have the flyer in front of you about the draft, public review draft of the zoning ordinance. Please feel free to invite anyone you think might be interested. Drop by anytime between 4 to 6. We'll have our friends from Gould Evans here to answer questions and get feedback from people. And then make sure you have, I know Laura's got it on her calendar, our joint City Council Planning Commission work session on the 30th, 6 o'clock. We'll serve dinner. We'll let you know if we're going to be over at Fire Station number 1 or if we'll be here. And then that's everything that we have coming up in the short term. We will keep you posted about May 2nd. If we do not have any agenda items, we will cancel that meeting because we'll have you on Tuesday night that week. But we may have something for you that night.
So on the joint session, the agenda for that, how set in stone is that? I mean, where I'm going with that is I know the memo that you'll be sending out, and if you could email that, because I think there's some other people that'll probably be interested in that. I think that would be, I know at least speaking for myself, would be interested in having an open conversation with the city council about that portion of the master plan. I don't know if that'd be appropriate given the zoning, or we could have that discussion during that time, or.
I mean, our focus is definitely
Sure.
going to be on the zoning ordinance update because we need to get direction about if there's anything that needs to be revised before we move forward with adoption.
Right.
That will be our top priority. But I'm happy to add that as an agenda item, at least to start a conversation if that's something that you're interested in.
I know I'd be interested in it. If everybody else would be.
Well, it'd be a good idea.
Okay.
Thursday.
That'd be great.
Are the new council members going to be up and at 'em by then, or?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
we have one new council member who will be sworn in on the 16th.
Okay.
So we'll have the new council there.
How's the selection of that being done?
I'm sorry?
As far as the selection for the members,
For,
for the new bicycle plan?
The Bicycle Advisory Committee, or the Bicycle Master Plan Advisory Committee is really, we put together a group where we were trying to capture business community, residents, people who we know bike, people who are some of our larger, we've got a hospital representative and Cerner representative. So it's just, a group. We do need somebody from the Planning Commission. So if any of you are particularly interested in being on the advisory committee,
I was just
let me
curious.
know.
Okay.
So,
Are you going to have your meetings at Velo Garage? I'm just curious.
well, we did ask Kylie to be on the advisory committee since he's a bicycle-oriented business. I don't know if we will have any there or not. But we do hope, as part of the more general community outreach that's part of that plan, to have a bicycling event for people as part of the public engagement.
Especially in North Kansas City, it seems like cycling has gotten very, very big
Yeah.
in the last couple of years. So
Yeah, so we will probably have some kind of ride of some sort later this summer as part of this process.
Any other, got a segue into the comments from commissioners section. Do you have any more from yours there?
That is all
Does
from me
anybody else have
tonight.
any comments for tonight? Anybody?
Briefly, I think this is terrific, and Mr. Mayor, I agree with a lot of what you said. We have a lot of good stuff here. We really do. So probably, I'm thinking through some of this, we'll be able to highlight that, hey, we already have a really good stuff going on, and I'm looking forward to some things that will just complement that, right? And the recognition never hurts, right? So we get our name on that list, we're the, gold, and people know we're doing something worthwhile here, so.
Great.
Good stuff.
Well, you might tell them the award you got about our bicycle path.
Oh, sure. Last Thursday, we had the board's appreciation banquet, and I left as soon as I could to go to the Bike Walk KC annual meeting because we were awarded, Diamond Parkway Cycle Track was awarded Bike Ped Project of the Year for 2018, competing against 2 projects in KCMO and 1 in Overland Park. So we were very happy to get that recognition, and Eric Rogers, our executive director, came to present it to the city council on Tuesday. So, yeah, hopefully the first of many. But it was nice to see that recognized last week.
Great. And I did have one question. I was just more curious. Does your office or the business council or does anybody do any sort of due diligence into like when businesses close or move out of North Kansas City?
You want to take that?
Sometimes they tell us why they are choosing to leave the community. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes we're just like you guys. We hear a little rumor mill. Like I said, we don't have a mechanism that proactively calls aside from when we do renewals. Every now and again, they will proactively tell us why they have either something has happened or they have left the community, but we don't have a closeout audit, as it were.
I was just curious. I know that like Paper Birch is moving to Westport. And I know Dare to Dabble, and again, there could be perfectly logical reasons why these things happen. With Hang Ten and Shaka closing down, some high-profile things. Enough of those start happening, people start asking, looking at these things like, why are these starting to happen? And I was just curious, more does the city look into that and then have good reasons why? So it doesn't. I just want to get to a point where these things start looking bad on the city, and then people who are wanting to open up an artist space, people who want to open up a restaurant in North Kansas City, have second thoughts about doing that because they say, well, wait a second, well, these places didn't work. My place may not work out. That's kind of where I'm going with all that.
No, Paper Birch Landing, Heather, she was actually on the Tim C. Crummett Charitable Foundation Committee. So she was a commissioner on that committee, and she did resign her position. She did move her business back to Westport. For her, that was where her particular clientele seemed to be located. That is where her buyers were located. So that was a personal business decision. I intend to actually get her back one day. That is my business plan. But just like any other business, private businesses need to make private decisions that they feel best benefit them. Even if it's a hard choice for Heather, it was an extremely hard choice. But I told her I can't wait till when she cuts her ribbon on her new business back up here in North Kansas City in a few years.
Great.
That might be something the business council and maybe even River North needs to kind of address. I have talked to a couple business owners, and one of the things, you're kind of a victim of your own success sometimes because they want to grow their business, but there's really no place to grow it to. So that kind of gets them looking out. So I don't know if we can do anything about that or not, but that's one thing that happens that I know of.
If you ever hear about a business that would like to grow within North Kansas City, please direct them my way. I can definitely help with that. Some of the challenge is just like anything, I only know what people tell me, and sometimes businesses are very leery and very shy to admit when they start looking around. So that's where I rely on everybody to help me with that, because I'm generally the last person they want to tell.
That's a great point. I told one guy, I said, have you talked to anybody? Let's talk to somebody. He's like, it's too late. He'd already, oh man, you got to say something.
Oh, you're breaking my heart here with that.
Say something. I'm with you, Kim. I'm with you. Let's see what we can do to help them.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Anybody else have anything?
I might say that finally we got people to let us know when new business were moving to town. I'd see somebody in town and I thought, where in the hell did they come from? And then finally now we're they're getting the information out to me anyway.
I get that too. Well, you're on the planning commission. You should know that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think with that, yeah, I'll go ahead and take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everybody.